Good evening. Well, you might have seen me playing this Les Paul Junior Special a couple times recently. It's a new purchase for me. Bought it used for $900, and I thought I'd make a video putting it up against my beloved Highway ONe Strat. So we're going to see some clips. I'm going to give some thoughts and comments, and I'm going to give a conclusion. And I'm not going to cop out and say it's apples and oranges. I'm going to give a conclusion at the end of this video. Strat versus Les Paul Junior. Good evening. By the way, I got back from a funeral for a little while ago. There have been too many funerals around here, maybe where you live too. And I left my tie and coat on. I played the piano for a funeral, one of many recently. And what a horrible thing. Not that old a guy either. And you know what? So you know what got him. But I think my channel's become dangerously casual, so I thought I'd leave my tie and coat on. But anyway, I bought this guitar this week. It's a Les Paul Junior Special, and I did a review of it. You can see that review. Just a few back. It's pretty recent. But sometimes when you play it a little more, you start to get more of a taste of it. You know, every guitar is a little different. So I did a video last night playing along with a backing track by Now You Shred website. It's an Alvin Lee Slow Blues. By the way, I actually used that backing track several months ago for a little video on my Acorn clone, and I just always kind of liked it. I'm not. Not familiar with the Alvin Lee song it evokes, but Now You Shred, such a good backing track site. I highly recommend it. They sound great. They kick out through your speakers so good, and they have more of a live rock and roll feel than some of these backing tracks, I think. They're all good. I'm not cutting down other sites, but his are especially good. But anyway, I got it out, and I used that track again, and I played this on it. And sometimes when you play and you jam, it's a little different than trying something out or testing it. Just jamming for a while, kind of on a Friday night, gave me a new taste of the guitar. So I have some additional thoughts, and I'm going to rank it up against this reigning contender, the Highway ONe, which is one of my favorite guitars. Might be my favorite guitar I've ever owned. In fact, I think it is, if you don't count my Martin, and those aren't really the same thing in acoustic and electric. It's definitely my favorite electric guitar. let's see how they compare. All right, checkpoint 1 is tone, and I guess that goes to pickups. When I played, I left everything the same. So the volume on the TV and the Bluetooth speaker were the same, and I didn't touch the amp. In some ways, that's not right because every guitar is a little different, and I feel like you should dial in the sound for every guitar. But I just thought it seems more straightforward to leave everything the same. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think that's really the right approach to do these comparisons because not every guitar is the same. So you want to get the best sound out of each guitar and then see how the best sound out of one guitar compares with the best sound out of another guitar. Not sort of a... But anyway, that's what I did. I left everything the same. Played through a Supro Blues King 10 that I always use. And I used the Keeley Dark Side pedal, which has become kind of my go-to pedal. It's super easy, and it's got a really nice delay, a big muff type delay and fuzz. But anyway, I'm calling the pickups war for the Les Paul Junior special. These are P90s, and I don't know, the humbuckers for this type of song. This type of song, I think... to me, the more I played it, I said, man, that has really got a nice sound. It's a kind of rich, creamy, elegant sound. I kept thinking, this seems so elegant, you know. And rock and roll can be very elegant. You listen to some of the good Zeppelin, it's a very elegant sound, a very rich, elegant sound, you know, for all the roughness that we often associate with rock and roll. This guitar, to me, has that really elegant, kind of rich, complex sound. And I think it might be these pickups. You know, now that's not an entirely fair comparison because the Highway ONe has these Hot Alnico 3 pickups on it, and I don't think they're the best Fender pickups. Somebody said, but I really like them. I think they're great rock and roll blues pickups. And sometimes a pickup that's a little raspier is good for blues. You know, that's why those harmonica players sometimes they like those $5 pickups played through some old blown amp, and it sounds killer on, you know, blues harmonica. So I think the pickups on the Highway ONe are great. But for this type of track, This to me had a really rich sound. Now I loved the Highway. I thought the Highway ONe sounded good. It wasn't like either of them sounded bad, and they maybe in some ways they didn't sound that different. I noticed the Highway ONe I thought was maybe a little louder, little more, a little hotter. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's where I had the camera or something. You know, sometimes that can affect what you think of the volume. I thought they both sounded great, and they sounded good together. So you have, two guitars. One sounds a little different than the other one. That's always good. So I thought they were complementary. But I was just kind of pleasantly surprised. I've never been much of a Gibson guy, quite frankly. I don't cut them down, but I've never been much for spending my money on a Gibson. And I started playing this, and I said, man, that's some sweet sounding stuff. And I think it's these pickups. Yeah, they sound great, and I'm gonna call this over the Highway ONe. I don't know if it sounds better overall for anything, but I thought there was a richness and a kind of a depth to the tone on this thing that yeah, elegant. That was the word. I don't know why. But to me, and a Les Paul is an elegant guitar. You know, they're definitely kind of fancier than Fenders, I think. I don't know if they always play better, but to me, it's an elegant little thing. That color, it's like a rich red, kind of deep red. Looks like a fancy restaurant red. Not bright ketchup red, but kind of a rich, complex red. Very nice. Sounded great. Action? This was a toughie because, of course, no matter how good the pickups are, if you can't play a guitar, then and it doesn't have good action, then you're not going to play it well and it won't sound good because playing ultimately comes from your fingers. It was close because I think the Les Paul is really cool and I'm starting to really like it. But I'm calling it for this one. It might be not fair because this has jumbo frets, and I love the jumbo frets. And I always feel like I can dig in and play on this. I notice when I go up here, and anytime you go up here, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who you are. When you go up here, you're on some thin ice, But this one, it's easier for me to go up here and also down in this area on the low strings. When I play here on this thing, I can just bend them, and when I get that amp cooking and the fuzz is just right, I can hit those bends on those bass strings, and they just resonate like a cello. And I think that goes to action, and it might go to the jumbo frets, but those two areas in particular. But let me say this about the Les Paul, because even though I'm saying I like my Strat action better, and my Highway ONe, not all Strats are the same, but that's got jumbo frets, you know, so that guitar, I love the action on it. What I will say about the action on this, though, is, again, it's a very elegant, I'm going to use that word again, it's a very elegant kind of smooth action, and it kind of grew on me. So I'm going to give this more time, because I think a Les Paul requires a different touch, you know, and so much of tone is in your touch. You ever listen to Robin Trower and all these sites dedicated to how do you sound like Trower? Well, you know, and you need a, you know, univibe, and, you know, you need to set your amp like this and that, and all that's important. But so much of that guy's tone is in his fingers. And anytime you play, the tone is in your fingers. And I started to realize, man, to really get that Les Paul sound, you've got to develop a different touch. I can't play this guitar like I play that guitar. So when I first started picking it up, I was just kind of playing it like it was a Strat. And after I was last night, I suddenly realized, you know, I'm kind of needing to develop a different touch here. And in a way, it was it was pushing me to have a kind of very nuanced, subtle touch, I think. And I don't know how I did it. You know, I was blowing notes up here that I usually feel like I'm cleaner on. I was not as clean as I like to be, because when I would get up here, I don't know, and the frets are smaller. So I found myself fishing for notes, and also I wasn't hitting them. But as I played it more, I started to get the hang of it. And I think there's an obvious lesson there, that sometimes you have to give things time. But I really started to like the action on this thing, and it's just different. But this is a pro guitar. The other thing I think about Les Pauls, to me, is they're a very professional guitar. They're not for kids or beginners. You've really got to kind of, if you want them to sound right, you've really got to play them right, and that's a pretty sophisticated touch. I don't know if I have it, but I picked that up right away. You want to make it sound really nice, and this thing is capable of sounding and playing great. You know, a lot of it is in your fingers, and of course your fingers attached to your brain, but you know, you've got to get that muscle memory and play a little different way. So I love the action on this, and it was kind of encouraging me to play in a different way. It sounded different to me in a not an obvious way, but it had a different feel. I'm gonna use that word again, elegant. I kind of felt just a richness and a complexity in the sound when I was playing this. But I did, particularly when I got down here, I lost some of that jumbo fret fatness. So there was a trade-off. But this is a nice guitar. I mean, it's a nice guitar. Well, what am I going to call it? I said I wasn't going to cop out. Now, I felt like copping out and saying, well, it's apples and oranges. You know, if you like to play like this, get the Highway ONe Strat. And by the way, I'm reviewing my Highway ONE. That's a heartbreaker. That's my favorite guitar, remains so. But I said I wasn't going to cop out. The only cop out I will make is that I'm talking about this song. I'm not, you know, I love that. I think the Strat sounds, that tribute to Keith Richards I did, or some of the other stuff I've done with that Highway ONE. I think it sounds so good, and I love the way it plays. But on this song and this style, that real smooth, kind of rich style that beautiful backing track by Now You Shred has, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm calling it for, I can't get the words out of my mouth. I'm calling it for the Les Paul. Beat my Highway ONE. Now there's some things I don't know if I had to play money, if I had to play for money and not make a mistake or something like that, I'd pick up my Highway ONE because I think I'm a little more used to it. I like the action on it. The fretting is, you know, I think this is a little smaller, but there was an elegance to this, and I got it. It was the first time in my life, really, I've ever got a Les Paul. And this is a Les Paul Junior, but I'm calling it a Les Paul. It was the first time I've ever really got it. I love this thing. When I first got it, I liked it. I thought, oh, that's a nice guitar. I'm glad I have it. I'll keep it around. It's definitely worth $900. But last night when I was playing it, it started to come through that this is an awesome guitar. Definitely worth $900. Very professional guitar. I don't think it's a kid's guitar. It's not a beginner's guitar. Maybe that's what happens with Les Pauls. They're not beginner's guitars or even intermediate guitars. They're, to really play them and make them sound good, you've got to have a really nice touch, I think. And the other thing about this is I don't think, at least I haven't tried it yet, I don't think I'd ever want to play it over one of my other guitars, necessarily if I were playing a lot of G chords. Maybe I would. But, you know, I guess there's a reason you don't see many Gibson Les Pauls in country music. You definitely see them in Southern rock, but you definitely don't see them too much in country music. And I don't think it's just because Fenders are twangier. That's what sometimes seems to be implied. I think particularly the Telecaster, you can pick it more. You know, in country they like to pick guitars. But and I'm still working on it. But the Les Paul, there's a Les Paul style, and it's that real smooth style. And you got to play a Les Paul a little different than any guitar I've ever played. But if you work on it, it'll give back to you a really beautiful, elegant, rich, complex sound. And these pickups, these P90s, are just beautiful pickups. Oh my gosh, I thought they sounded great. I hope it comes through on the YouTube and, you know, these little cell phone videos I make, because I realize my sound, nothing about these videos is high end really. But I hope the sound comes out, because when I started playing it last night, that's when it really started to hit me. This is just and one other point, the sustain. The sustain on this, it definitely beat the Highway ONE in sustain. Now, a lot of sustain comes from the fuzz, and that's all right. You know, fuzz is there for a reason. But this thing beat the Highway ONE pretty clearly when it comes to hitting a note and then just letting it ring. This thing seemed to have sustain for days. So, first time in my life, and I'm not that young, you might have noticed that I'm calling it for, on this song, on this style. If I were recording this or something or playing it, and I had the luxury of picking which guitar I thought would go best with the track, and every song is different, I'd pick this one. Maybe that's why, you know, you see some guys, they have a Les Paul and a Strat. That's nice work if you can get it right. And I've got a Les Paul and a Strat, but when you play, it's a pain in the ass to always be switching back and forth on guitars. Maybe that's why I've never messed with it. I have more than one guitar. But if you're in the position of like, I want to play this guitar on this song, this guitar on this song, and for that song that you just heard, I would pick this. I think it's I don't know if it's better, but it had a quality I liked that was distinctive. And I'll use that word again, elegant. Very elegant, beautiful sound. And a nuanced, subtle sound. So I guess I'm becoming a little bit more sold on these Gibsons, you know. I still think it was a little fussy tuning it, so all I did in that song was play leads, you know. And leads are the easiest to get away with, but it seemed to hold its tune pretty well for what I was doing. Like I said, the rubber hits the road on intonation when you start to try to play a lot of really nice chords, I've always said, you know, and you're not all distorted playing hard rock. But you start to get like major thirds and major sevenths and things like that, and if you're out of tune, those things just sound horrible. And so I don't know, I'll have to keep working on it, but for lead, to me, it's a very professional guitar. It's not a, I hope kids should buy it, but and learn to play right, because a kid is handicapping himself if he doesn't have a good guitar. But it is, to really make it sound right, it almost takes an advanced player. I don't know. I guess I'm an advanced player, but to really make it sound right, you have to have a nice touch, and that's what I noticed right away. Is I have to play this a little different. You know, I have to be smoother. I have to, you know, I can't attack the strings. The strings kind of just play themselves if you do it right. It's weird. So I tend to have a kind of a heavy attack sometimes. You know, this one weird thing, sometimes that heavy attack, the more you play sometimes, the lighter touch is. It's sort of the opposite of what you might think, but the more you play, the lighter your touch gets, and that's weird, but I can tend to have a heavy attack. But I remember when I used to play a lot, like we used to play when the Masters would come to Georgia, and I was in this group called the Silverbird Duo. It used to kill me, but my friend loved it because we made good money. But we would play, it was like 7 nights a week. I would go into work dead, but and I remember by Saturday night, I would just have such a light, clean touch, and it was from playing every night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I feel like that's kind of what you need on this. You need a really light, it's not a very forgiving instrument. You've really got to have a light, clean, and yet defined touch. You know, it doesn't cut you much slack, but if you work with it, it'll give you that really clean subtlety that comes from a good guitar. So the more I play it, the more I like it. Well, thank you. God bless you. I'm calling, and I just want to reiterate, it's only on this song or this type of song, but if I had to choose for this song, my Highway ONE that I love would go back in the case, and this would come out, the Les Paul Junior Special, because it's a very beautiful guitar. Man, it really started to hit me the more I played it. Thank you. God bless you.